Chapter 24. 7 years old was Jehoash when he began to reign, and for 40 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zibiah from Beersheba. And Jehoash kept doing what was right in Jehovah's eyes all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada proceeded to get 2 wives for him, and he came to be father to sons and daughters. Now it occurred afterward that it became close to the heart of Jehoash to renovate the house of Jehovah. Accordingly, he collected the priests and the Levites together and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah and collect money from all Israel to repair the house of your God from year to year, and you for your part should act quickly in the matter." And the Levites did not act quickly. So the king called Jehoiada the head and said to him, "Why is it that you have not required an account of the Levites for bringing in from Judah and Jerusalem the sacred tax ordered by Moses the servant of Jehovah, even that of the congregation of Israel for the tent of the testimony? For as regards Athaliah the wicked woman, her sons themselves had broken into the house of the true God, and even all the holy things of the house of Jehovah they had rendered up to the Baals." Then the king said the word, and so they made a chest and put it outside at the gate of the house of Jehovah. After that, they issued a call throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring to Jehovah the sacred tax ordered by Moses the servant of the true God upon Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people began to rejoice, and they kept bringing and casting it into the chest until they all had given. And it came about at the proper time, he would bring the chest to the care of the king by the hand of the Levites. And as soon as they saw that there was plenty of money, the secretary of the king and the commissioner of the chief priest came, and then emptied the chest, and lifted it up, and returned it to its place. That was the way they did from day to day, so that they gathered money in abundance. Then the king and Jehoiada would give it to the doers of the work of the service of Jehovah's house. And they came to be hirers of the stonecutters and of the craftsmen for renovating Jehovah's house, and also of the workers in iron and copper for repairing Jehovah's house. And the doers of the work began operations, and the repair work kept advancing by their hand. And finally they made the house of the true God stand as it structurally should, and made it strong. And as soon as they had finished, they brought before the king and Jehoiada the rest of the money, and they proceeded to make utensils for the house of Jehovah, utensils for the ministry and for making offerings, and cups and utensils of gold and of silver. And they came to be offerers of burnt sacrifices in the house of Jehovah constantly, all the days of Jehoiada. And Jehoiada got to be old, and satisfied with years, and gradually died, being 130 years old at his death. So they buried him in the city of David along with the kings, because he had done good in Israel, and with the true God in his house. And after Jehoiada's death, the princes of Judah came in and proceeded to bow down to the king. At that time the king listened to them, and gradually they left the house of Jehovah, the God of their forefathers, and began serving the sacred poles and the idols, so that there came to be indignation against Judah and Jerusalem because of this guilt of theirs. And he kept sending prophets among them to bring them back to Jehovah, and they kept bearing witness against them, but they did not give ear. And God's Spirit itself enveloped Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest, so that he stood up above the people and said to them, "This is what the true God has said. Why are you overstepping the commandments of Jehovah, so that you cannot prove successful? Because you have left Jehovah, he will in turn leave you." Finally they conspired against him and pelted him with stones at the king's commandment in the courtyard of Jehovah's house. And Jehoash the king did not remember the loving kindness that Jehoiada his father had exercised toward him, so that he killed his son, who when he was at the point of dying said, "Let Jehovah see to it and ask it back." And it came about at the turn of the year, a military force of Syria came up against him, and they began to invade Judah and Jerusalem. Then they brought all the princes of the people to ruin from among the people, and all their spoil they sent to the king of Damascus. For was with a small number of men that the military force of the Syrians made an invasion, and Jehovah himself gave into their hand a military force of very great number, because they had left Jehovah the God of their forefathers. And upon Jehoash they executed acts of judgment. And when they went away from him, for they left him with many diseases, his own servants conspired against him because of the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and they got to kill him upon his own couch, so that he died. Then they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the burial places of the kings. And these were the conspirators against him: Zabad the son of Shimeath the Ammonitess, and Jehoshaphat the son of Shimrith the Moabitess. As for his sons, and the abundance of the pronouncement against him, and the founding of the house of the true God, there they are written in the exposition of the book of the Kings. And Amaziah his son began to reign in place of him. Chapter 25. At the age of 25 years, Amaziah became king, and for 29 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he continued to do what was right in Jehovah's eyes, only not with a complete heart. And it came about that as soon as the kingdom had become strong upon him, he promptly killed his servants who had struck down the king his father. And their sons he did not put to death, but did according to what is written in the law, in the book of Moses, that Jehovah commanded, saying, Fathers should not die for sons, neither should sons themselves die for fathers, but it is each one for his own sin that they should die. And Amaziah proceeded to collect Judah together, and to have them stand according to the house of the forefathers, by the chiefs of thousands and by the chiefs of hundreds, for all Judah and Benjamin. And he went on to register them from 20 years of age upward. And finally he found them to be 300,000 choice men going out to the army, handling lance and large shield. Further, he hired from Israel 100,000 valiant mighty men for 100 silver talents. And a certain man of the true God came to him, saying, O king, do not let the army of Israel come with you, for Jehovah is not with Israel, that is, all the sons of Ephraim. But come you yourself, act, be courageous for the war. The true God could cause you to stumble before an enemy, for there exists power with God to help and to cause stumbling. At this Amaziah said to the man of the true God, But what is there to do about the 100 talents that I have given to the troops of Israel? To this the man of the true God said, There exists with Jehovah the means to give you much more than this. Accordingly Amaziah separated them, namely the troops that had come to him from Ephraim, to go to their own place. However, their anger got very hot against Judah, so that they returned to their own place in the heat of anger. And Amaziah, for his part, took courage, and proceeded to lead his own people and go to the valley of Salt. And he went striking down the sons of Seir, 10,000 of them. And there were 10,000 that the sons of Judah captured alive. So they brought them to the top of the crag, and proceeded to throw them from the top of the crag, and they, one and all, burst apart. As for the members of the troop whom Amaziah had sent back from going with him to the war, they began making raids upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria clear to Beth Horon, and went striking down 3,000 of them, and taking a great plunder. But it occurred after Amaziah came from striking down the Edomites, that he now brought the gods of the sons of Seir, and set them up for himself as gods. And before them he began to bow down, and to them he began to make sacrificial smoke. Consequently Jehovah's anger became hot against Amaziah, and so he sent a prophet to him and said to him, Why have you searched for the people's gods that did not deliver their own people out of your hand? And it came about when he spoke to him that the king immediately said to him, Was it a counselor of the king that we constituted you? Quit for your own sake. Why should they strike you down? Accordingly the prophet quit. But he said, I certainly know that God is resolved to bring you to ruin, because you have done this, and you have not listened to my counsel. Then Amaziah the king of Judah took counsel, and sent to Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz the son of Jehu, the king of Israel, saying, "Come, let us look each other in the face." At that Jehoash the king of Israel sent to Amaziah the king of Judah, saying, "The thorny weed itself that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, 'Do give your daughter to my son as a wife.' However, a wild beast of the field that was in Lebanon passed by and trampled the thorny weed down. You have said to yourself, 'Here you have struck down Edom, and your heart has lifted you up to be glorified.' Now do keep dwelling in your own house. Why should you engage in strife in a bad position and have to fall, you and Judah with you?" But Amaziah did not listen, for it was from the true God for the purpose of giving them into his hand, because they had searched for the gods of Edom. So Jehoash the king of Israel went up, and they proceeded to look each other in the face, he and Amaziah the king of Judah, at Beth-shemesh, which belongs to Judah. And Judah came to be defeated before Israel, so that they took to flight, each one to his tent. And it was Amaziah the king of Judah, the son of Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, that Jehoash the king of Israel seized at Beth-shemesh, after which he brought him to Jerusalem, and made a breach in the wall of Jerusalem, from the gate of Ephraim clear to the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and the silver, and all the articles that were to be found in the house of the true God, with Obed-Edom, and the treasures of the king's house, and the hostages, and then returned to Samaria. And Amaziah the son of Jehoash, the king of Judah, continued to live after the death of Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz, the king of Israel, 15 years. As for the rest of the affairs of Amaziah, the first and the last, look, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? And from the time that Amaziah turned aside from following Jehovah, they proceeded to form a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem. At length he fled to Lachish, but they sent after him to Lachish and put him to death there. So they carried him upon horses, and buried him with his forefathers in the city of Judah. Chapter 26. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, he being 16 years old, and they made him king in place of his father Amaziah. He it was that rebuilt Eloth, and then restored it to Judah after the king had lain down with his forefathers. 16 years old was Uzziah when he began to reign, and for 52 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. And he kept doing what was right in Jehovah's eyes, according to all that Amaziah his father had done. And he continually tended to search for God in the days of Zechariah, the instructor in the fear of the true God. And in the days of his searching for Jehovah, the true God made him prosperous. And he proceeded to go out and fight against the Philistines, and break through the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod, after which he built cities in Ashdod territory, and among the Philistines. And the true God continued to help him against the Philistines and against the Arabians that were dwelling in Gur-baal and the Meunim. And the Ammonites began to give tribute to Uzziah. Eventually his fame went even as far as Egypt, for he displayed strength to an extraordinary degree. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem by the corner gate and by the valley gate, and by the buttress, and made them strong. Further, he built towers in the wilderness, and hewed out many cisterns, for there was a great deal of livestock that became his, and also in the Shephelah and on the tableland. There were farmers and vine dressers in the mountains and in Carmel, for a lover of agriculture he proved to be. Moreover, Uzziah came to have a force engaging in war, those going out on military service in troops, by the number of their registration by the hand of Jael, the secretary, and Maaseiah, the officer under the control of Hananiah of the king's princes. The entire number of the heads of the paternal houses of the valiant mighty men was 2,600. And under their control the army forces were 307,500 men, engaging in war with the power of a military force to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah continued to prepare for them, for the entire army, shields and lances and helmets, and coats of mail and bows and slingstones. Further, he made in Jerusalem engines of war, the invention of engineers, that they might come to be upon the towers and upon the corners, to shoot arrows and great stones. Consequently, his fame went out to a great distance, for he was helped wonderfully until he was strong. However, as soon as he was strong, his heart became haughty, even to the point of causing ruin, so that he acted unfaithfully against Jehovah his God, and came into the temple of Jehovah to burn incense upon the altar of incense. Immediately, Azariah the priest, and with him priests of Jehovah, 80 valiant men, came in after him. Then they stood up against Uzziah the king, and said to him, "It is not your business, O Uzziah, to burn incense to Jehovah, but it is the business of the priests, the sons of Aaron, the ones sanctified, to burn incense. Go out from the sanctuary, for you have acted unfaithfully, and it is not for any glory to you on the part of Jehovah God." But Uzziah became enraged, while in his hand there was a censer for burning incense. And during his rage against the priests, leprosy itself flashed up in his forehead, before the priests in the house of Jehovah, beside the altar of incense. When Azariah the chief priest and all the priests turned toward him, why, there he was, stricken with leprosy in his forehead. So they excitedly began to remove him from there, and he himself also hastened to go out, because Jehovah had smitten him. And Uzziah the king continued to be a leper until the day of his death, and he kept dwelling in a house exempt from duties, as a leper, for he had been severed from the house of Jehovah, while Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. And the rest of the affairs of Uzziah, the first and the last, Isaiah the son of Amoz the prophet has written. Finally, Uzziah lay down with his forefathers, and so they buried him with his forefathers, but in the burial field that belonged to the kings, for they said, "He is a leper." And Jotham his son began to reign in place of him. Chapter 27.